Daniel Price was the kind of boy everyone admired. Brave, kind, and always willing to stand up for others. At just 12 years old, he was known throughout the small town of Ashford as a protector of the weak, a valiant soul. But on the night of October 5, 2019, Daniel vanished without a trace. One moment, he was riding his bike home from a friend's house. The next, he was gone. No signs of a struggle. No calls for help. Just a single shoe left abandoned on the roadside. What happened to Daniel Price? And why did his disappearance unravel a web of secrets no one saw coming? Daniel was bright, compassionate, and had a strong sense of justice. He was the kind of kid who couldn't stand bullying and often defended those who couldn't defend themselves. His parents, Laura and Mark Price, described him as fearless, sometimes to a fault. But was his courage the reason he disappeared? On the night of his disappearance, Daniel was last seen leaving his best friend, Tommy's house, just 2 blocks from home. It was 7:45 p.m. He should have been home by 8. But he never made it. A neighbor's security camera captured Daniel's last known movements. He was riding down Willow Street, then suddenly he stopped. For nearly a full minute, he stood perfectly still, looking toward the woods at the edge of the neighborhood. Then, without warning, he dropped his bike and ran into the darkness. And more importantly, was he running toward something or away from something? Police launched a full-scale search. Bloodhounds tracked Daniels, sent to a clearing deep in the woods, where they found something chilling. His sneaker. And beside it, a burned piece of paper with only 2 words still legible. He knows. Who was he? And what did he know? As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered disturbing secrets, not just about Daniel, but about his own family. Daniel's parents had painted the picture of a perfect family. But as police combed through their lives, cracks began to appear. Mark Price, Daniel's father, had a criminal record from years before, something he never disclosed to anyone in town. And then, a chilling revelation. Just weeks before his disappearance, Daniel had been seen arguing with an unknown man outside his school. A man who bore a striking resemblance to someone from his father's past. Was Daniel keeping a dangerous secret? And was that why he ran into the woods that night? With no ransom demand and no body, theories began to swirl. Did Daniel encounter a predator that night? If so, why did he willingly run toward the woods instead of away from danger? Could Mark Price's history have caught up with him? Did someone come looking for revenge and take the one thing he loved most? Tommy, Daniel's best friend, initially told police he had no idea why Daniel left that night. But weeks later, he admitted that Daniel had confided in him about something. Something terrifying. Tommy refused to say more, only whispering, "If I tell, they'll come for me too." Years have passed, but Daniel Price remains missing. No body. No definitive answers. Just lingering questions. Did he run to escape something, or someone? And what was written on that burned paper before the flames consumed it? Some say he was taken. Others believe he knew a secret so dangerous, he had no choice but to disappear. And some still hear whispers in the woods. What do you think happened to Daniel Price? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love true crime mysteries, don't forget to subscribe, because some stories refuse to be forgotten. Just when the case had turned cold, a breakthrough occurred. A hunter deep in the forest reported something disturbing: a small, rusted lockbox buried beneath the roots of an old oak tree. Inside was a collection of notes written by Daniel. One note stood out. It read, "I know who took him, but I'm next." The handwriting? It wasn't Daniel's. It was Tommy's. Police immediately tracked down Tommy, now 18 years old and living in another state. When confronted, his face went pale. He refused to talk until investigators revealed the note. Finally, after all these years, Tommy broke down. And what he confessed changed everything. He said in a shaking voice, "Daniel didn't run into the woods that night. He was taken, and I know by who." But before he could reveal the name, Tommy looked over his shoulder and whispered, "They're still watching." What did Tommy mean? And who is they? The case isn't closed yet. But one thing is certain: someone in Ashford knows exactly what happened to Daniel Price. 2 days later, Tommy was found dead in his apartment, an apparent suicide. But investigators weren't convinced. The message left on his computer screen simply read, "Too late." Authorities reopened the case, but now, fear gripped the town. Who was they? And how far would they go to keep their secret? And then, a chilling breakthrough hidden inside Tommy's old belongings. Police discovered a torn photograph. It showed a group of men, and among them, Mark Price, Daniel's father. Was this the connection? Was Daniel's disappearance somehow tied to his father's past? Then came a phone call that sent shivers down the lead detective's spine. A static-filled voice whispered 3 words: "He's still alive." Was it a cruel prank? A desperate plea for help? Or was Daniel Price truly out there, waiting to be found? One thing was certain: the case was far from over. As investigators followed the lead, they uncovered a chilling underground network, one that Mark Price was once involved with. A secret organization that thrived on blackmail, power, and silence. And Daniel? He may have uncovered something too dangerous to ignore. As the detectives closed in on their suspects, they received an unmarked package at the station. Inside was a single VHS tape. A video of Daniel alive, bound to a chair, and staring straight into the camera. He spoke just 2 words before the screen went black: "Find me." The hunt for the truth was just beginning. The VHS tape was old, its plastic casing cracked, the label long worn away. But when investigators played it, their blood ran cold. Daniel sat in a dimly lit room, his eyes hollow, his clothes disheveled. His lips parted slightly as he whispered, "Find me." Then, a shadow moved behind him, a figure just out of frame. The screen flickered, distorting the image, but before it cut to black, something caught their attention: a tattooed hand gripping Daniel's shoulder. The tattoo matched one seen in the torn photograph police had recovered from Tommy's belongings. A symbol tied to the secret organization Mark Price was once involved with. Was this proof that Daniel was alive? And if so, where was he now? Investigators traced the VHS tape back to an abandoned warehouse outside of town. It had been empty for years, but inside, they found chilling evidence: scraps of clothing, old photographs, and more disturbingly, a child's journal. It was Daniel's, and inside, one phrase was written over and over again in shaky handwriting: "The truth is buried." Buried where? And what truth had he uncovered? Then, another discovery: a rusted metal box hidden beneath the floorboards. Inside were several ID cards belonging to children who had disappeared over the past decade. Was Daniel just one of many victims? And then, another note, scrawled in the same handwriting: "I am not the first, but I will be the last." The case had taken a dark turn. Whoever had taken Daniel wasn't just covering up a crime, they were protecting something much bigger. Then, one final clue surfaced. In the deepest corner of the warehouse, behind a false wall, police found something horrifying: a room filled with surveillance monitors, all showing live feeds from inside homes across town. And in one feed, captured in real time, was Daniel's mother, sitting alone in her living room. Someone was still watching. And they weren't done yet. Daniel's case wasn't just about a missing boy anymore. It was about something far more sinister. Something that had been operating in the shadows for years. And now, the hunters had become the hunted.